Alright, this is Chat UTD and this is my match reaction to the defeat to Nottingham Forest. Tonight is an indication of where we are as a team, where we are as a club. It's nights like tonight that are they're a culmination of 11 years of mismanagement, poor decisions, incompetence, ridiculous use of money, being a commercial-led football club rather than a football-led football club. A cultural problem that's developed over that period of time, and what you see is you'll get loads of nights like tonight, and it's going to take a lot to try and solve those problems. A lot of work to do. Just looking at the nuts and bolts of the game, of course we can see the goal early doors, which is frustrating. It's another set piece, which I'm going to come back to a little bit later. And it's an awful start to the game. I thought we recovered really well, and I think the best spell in the game was between going 1-0 down and getting the equalising goal. We played really well. There was a bit of a cut and thrust to it. There was a cohesion, a fluidity, not creating like loads and loads of brilliant chances, but just some decent football, some good stuff. And I thought we were worthy of the equaliser. Fantastic ball by Ugarte. Obviously Garnacho shoots, Højlund finishes it, and then you hope that you're going to kick on, but it actually just flattened out, levelled out till half time. But no major worries. I think it was all right. We were doing okay. 1-1's not the end of the world at half time, and you're hoping that then you come out and you take control of the game. The problem was we conceded a freak goal, and Onana's got to do so much better. The ball moved a little bit, but when you look at how close it is to him and the height it's at, he can't let that in. It's such a big mistake to make in a game in the Premier League. There are no mugs in the Premier League anymore. These are fine lines, and if you make a mistake like that, the whole game turns on its head. And what followed then was a mad few minutes where we then conceded another one, where the ball goes to the back post. Wood is challenged, but not sufficiently enough. But he heads it, he loops it over, and you've got Onana, De Ligt and Martinez all there, and none of them take control of the situation, and it ends up going in. If I had to say who was accountable for that, I'd probably say De Ligt, but you have got Onana and Martinez there as well, and as a defender or a goalkeeper you've got to be pessimistic, and none of them did. None of them were proactive enough, none of them were reactive enough, and it's 3-1 and the whole game's changed. And we're 3-1 down there, not because Nottingham Forest are outplaying us, not because they've had control of the game, not because they're a much better team than us, but from two mad moments in the game. And again, that fine line. You can't allow that to happen. Decision making, not good enough. We then get one back, obviously. Brilliant football from Bruno, fantastic volleyed pass over to Ahmad. Ahmad does well. Ahmad's little pass is a lot better than people give him credit for, because he'd almost lost control of the ball. It was quite a tricky angle to try and make that pass. He doesn't pass it straight to Bruno. He puts it in a space where he knows Bruno can get it. It's football intelligence. Bruno's finish is brilliant. 3-2. You think cavalry charge. We're going for it. There's loads of time left. We could get a 3-3. We could even win this 4-3. It's a relatively famous night in the early days of Amorim at Old Trafford. But we huffed and puffed. There was plenty of endeavour, but there's just not that quality there. There's not that. The decision making isn't good enough. The cohesion and fluidity that I wouldn't really expect massively to be there yet, but it's not there. Got to give credit to Amorim when he brought Xerxes and Mount on. He'd already made the change at the back and he'd already brought Rashford on. I was looking at it thinking, what's he doing here with the shape? And I think I worked it out. He had three at the back. He had Mainu just in front of the three, and then it was like a 3-1-5-1, because in behind Højlund he had Dalot was really high up. He had Mount, Xerxes, Rashford, and Ahmad all behind Højlund. So you can't say he didn't go for it. You can't say he wasn't innovative. You can't say he wasn't trying to make something different happen, because he was. And I think it's just, again, we just didn't quite have that. The decision making wasn't quite right at different times. And it's little details. It's things like, I don't want to pick on him, but Dalot, Dalot, he takes too long on the ball. He gets the ball, he controls it, he has a think about it. He might try a little bit of skill. He might touch it slightly to the left. He might touch it slightly to the right. There's times when Dalot gets the ball, and you can see it when you're watching it. You're thinking, right, so Rasmus has made a run there, or someone's made a run there. They're in. You've got to pass it then. If you wait, or you take a little touch, or you have a little look around, or whatever, it's gone. This is Premier League football. It's high-paced, high-octane. You've got to get the decision right at that moment in time. And he takes far too long on the ball. And then in other occasions, he's quite rash with the ball. Again, it's decision-making. But I think there's a feature of Dalot is that he takes too long on the ball. You could say, well, you know, we're playing a new system. It's different. We're doing it slightly differently now. He isn't going to know where everybody is as automatically as he did before. Dalot, for me, is a feature of his game. It's not just exclusive to it since Amorim's come in. We lack a focal point. We lack that centre forward that you can look to, that's going to, with his movement, with his ingenuity, with his link play, with his goal scoring, with his nous. We haven't got that. Højlund's a promising player. I think across the first few yards when he starts running, he's not quick enough. I think he'll probably get you 15 goals a season, which is nothing to be sniffed at. But in this team, we need more than that. He could go to City, he could go to Liverpool, he could go to probably another number of different teams in the Premier League. You'd think he'd probably get 20, 25 goals a season, but he's not. He's with us. So in this team, he's not good enough. He's not there yet. He's not ready yet. And I think that stands out. Don't think we've got that focal point up top. I think it's clear we need a left wing back ASAP, as in January. To solve that problem right now, I would have Garnacho as left wing back, I'd have Mazraoui as right wing back, and I'd have Amad in one of the 10 roles, or whatever, inside forward, whatever you want to call it, double tens, whatever, in behind the striker. I said that after Ipswich. I maintain that for me would be preferable to having Amad so deep. Amad's going to be effective wherever he plays. He's done very well at wing back, but I'd have him definitely further forward. And Garnacho, I think, is suited to play wing back because he's air him, scare him. He makes mistakes. I think you can do that at left wing back, and it's not as big a deal when you're in that position where you're in behind the striker. You're supposed to be decisive. You're supposed to be the one that's making things happen. And again, he's not. So far, anyway. I thought he was poor in midweek, and I thought he was poor again today. So right now we haven't got a left wing back, I'd put him there rather than Dalot. But I think that's quite an urgent thing that we need to sort out. And I don't know if we've got the money to do it. I don't know if it will happen, but the balance of the team doesn't look right. This is where we are. And I said I was going to go back to set pieces, didn't I? Set pieces. The Arsenal game really kind of made me think, and I said it on here. Declan Rice never took corners for West Ham as far as I'm aware. And yet, he obviously, at Arsenal, has been given that responsibility, and he clearly has practiced, and he has clearly become very good at it. Now forget this nonsense about this set-piece coach being the difference with Arsenal. He's not. We can overcomplicate and over-egg and over-analyse things. Over-egg the pudding, over-analyse things. The set-piece coach ain't doing it at Arsenal. What they've got is somebody who can put it on a sixpence time after time after time, and they've got a bunch of absolute dogs bulldogs that will go in there and attack every ball like their lives depend on it. That's what's happening with Arsenal. So, if Declan Rice can go and do that and be that good at it, what Man United need to do, pick any player. I'd say actually, much as I don't think he's good enough to play for Man United, I'd say probably Rashford. It might make him more useful for the team. Whoever though, Rashford, Ugarte, whoever. You say to a player, right, for the next 2 or 3 weeks, you'll do your normal training and then we're going to do corners. A Premier League player, with the quality they've got, whoever they are, pretty much should be able to deliver a corner on a sixpence with a bit of practice over and over again. Not difficult. Bruno today, 2 corners in the first half. Neither of them got past the defender at the front post. Shocking. Terrible. Bruno Fernandes, technically gifted football player, a wand of a right foot, as we saw with the free kick which hit the bar. Second half, he takes a corner. He puts it right under the bar like Rice did for Arsenal. Why the inconsistency? That should be happening 8 times out of 10. And I think with where we're at the moment, not being particularly good as a team, I don't think that's difficult to improve on that. If I look at us defensively from set pieces, one of the things Amorim's obviously brought in is to do zonal marking from set pieces. I said it after the Arsenal game. I'm not sure. I think it needs to be that you go man for man. You've got accountability. I don't think these lot are good enough or intelligent enough. Today again, we were all over the place at set pieces defending them. When Amorim came in, he said, I've got a certain way of doing things, going to do it my way, and we'll highlight the players that can't do it, and from that we'll know who can do it, who can't do it, and we'll make decisions accordingly, and people will come with me, the people won't come with me. He's not used those exact words, I'm paraphrasing, but that's what we were all quite optimistic about, and I'm sure part of that is how you defend set pieces, etc. But with the system, with the way he plays, with the demanding of running and all that kind of stuff, I get it. I just think with set pieces, could he be a little bit more flexible with that? Because we're conceding goals because of it, and it's costing us points because of it. And I think it's a simple adjustment to make to go man for man. I don't think it's difficult to go man for man. Again, think about set piece coaches. I don't know. Maybe I'm being ignorant. I don't think it's rocket science to defend a corner. You say he's number 9's yours, number 8's yours, number 7's yours, the guy coming at the back stick's yours, and then if you lose one of those people, it's your responsibility that the goal's gone in. It's not difficult. It's really not. So we are conceding from corners and set pieces, and we look vulnerable from them, and we make nothing of them ourselves. It's such a basic part of the game that we can improve on, which would, whilst we're trying to settle into Amorim's way of playing and trying to become a better team, surely that would be something that you would focus on and utilise and get the best out of. I wonder if Amorim is giving these players enough rope to hang themselves. Today, he didn't rotate. He did rotate a bit, but he didn't. I think today he's picked close to probably what's his best team. But I think previously he's been changing quite a lot. And I think part of that is quite clever. Giving players a chance that are squad players that under Ten Hag wouldn't have played really. There's a few plus points to that. By doing that, those players are playing in front of millions and millions of people. So there's a stack of evidence building up where he can point to that and say, they're not good enough. Everyone's seen it. So if he goes to the board in the summer and says, I don't rate him, the board can't say, how do you know you've not played him? Because he'll say, I have played him quite a bit. He ain't good enough. Did you watch it? Did you see it? Here's a video of it. I want players to run. You've said that you want players to represent Man United who do this, this, and this. Let's watch the game. Does he do that? No. So then, it's not easy to get rid of players who are on 150 grand, 200 grand a week. In one case, 50 grand a week, who are not good enough. It's not easy to do that. But if you build up a bank of evidence to say, look, I've tried, and this is what they do, and I'm your man who you trust, and I'm telling you they're not good enough, it's clever. And it looks like we're going about it a slightly different way as a club, in that previously the club would have given it Ruud for the rest of the season. Previously he would have played a system that the players were comfortable with, and we probably would have seen an upturn in results. Not a brilliant one, not a massive one, but we'd have probably seen some improvement. It papers over the cracks, and we get another manager in, and these players get another chance. We've got a proper manager in partway through the season who plays a specific style of football, who's brave enough to say we're going to do it, whether it costs us points or not, and whether we're struggling or not, so that I can highlight and shine a light on the problem. If you know what the problem is, you can try and solve it. Now, you might say, me, you, and other people that might watch this, and thousands and tens of thousands of United fans across the world, that we might know what the problem is, but it's not FIFA. It's proper football. It's not easy to get rid of a player on 150, 200, 300 grand a week. So you probably have to play a little bit of a political game to some degree. And I think the manager's being quite clever by highlighting the problem, so he can go, right, there's the problem. Are you going to back me to solve it? Because I'm supposed to be your guy. And nights like tonight, again, are an indicator that I don't think anyone's not trying. I don't think that people, you can't say they're down in tools, can you? You can't say that no one wants to play for Amorim. They're just not there. They're just not good enough. And that's where we're at. As I said, no ranting and raving from me. We're just not good enough. I just want to comment again on a couple of things that Amorim said in the week, which I thought were quite clever. He said, you could be the best players in the Premier League, but if they don't run, you're not going to win the Premier League. And it's very clever because it's very subtle. It's not that subtle, actually. He's not saying, this team don't run enough. Marcus Rashford don't run enough, he's a lazy bastard. He's not saying that. He's saying, to get where we want to get to, essentially, you have to have players that run. If you don't, any team is not going to be able to do it. So he's implying we don't run enough. He's implying that if that doesn't change, we're not going to be able to get where we need to get to. He's not implying it, he's saying it, but he's not calling out individuals. And I think that's very clever, because he knows that we know, as a fan base, we know who he's talking about. But he's not being controversial. The club aren't going to bring him in and say, hey, Ruben, you can't say that. Because he's just saying, well, I'm just saying that any team that wins the Premier League needs to run. What's wrong with that? Clever, very clever. And he's right. Of course he's right. So sorry, I got my definition wrong there. He's not implying those things. He's saying those things, but he's not calling anyone out. But it makes it very clear to the players that don't run, shit, I need to start running, or maybe I'm not going to be at the club anymore, if he has the autonomy to do that. Which, again, I really hope that he does. In terms of where this leaves us, well, factually, we're 13th in the table, and I think there's teams above us that have got games in hand on us. I maintain that if we get top 6 this season and win a trophy, it's a fantastic season. If we get top 6 this season and don't win a trophy, it's a good season. If we don't get top 6 and we win a trophy, if it's the Europa League, it gets us into Europe, it's probably, again, a very good season. If it's the FA Cup or something else, it's great to have won the Cup, but it's not a good season. The most important thing is that we start to see some movement towards what we want and an intent to go towards what we want. And that might be painful because the players probably can't do it. And if the players can't do it, then the progress is not the league position. The progress is that we now know who it is that needs to be removed, and they need to be removed. I've long since said my expectations are low, but we need to have standards that are high. So I don't expect us to do brilliant things this season, but we have to get back to certain standards. And if players can't deliver those standards, then they need to be moved on. And that in itself is progress, even if we finish 9th or 10th. I'm going to leave you with something that Ruben said this week, which tonight is a symbol of. We're a great football club, but we're not a great football team. You know that, I know that, everyone knows that. We summed it up. That's where we're at. We're not good enough. And with a defeat like this, it doesn't, it sounds awful this, it doesn't make me feel a strong emotion. It doesn't make me feel absolutely gutted or anything like that. I just think that's where we are. That's who we are, unfortunately, and that's not on Amrin. I'm sure there's things he can do better. I'm sure there's, over time, as I've said before, he'll have his idiosyncrasies, he'll have his little traits that we don't like. But right now, I've seen nothing from him that I don't like. Don't like the zonal marking from corners. Other than that, it's all good. Well, we're not good enough because we've been neglected for 11 years. I'm just finally going to end on a little bit of a sentimental note. I thought it was lovely that at the start of the game there was a proper commemorative tribute to Kath Phipps, who's the receptionist at United. She was 56 years in the job, which means by my rubbish maths, she started in 1968. And I don't know when she retired or if she even has retired. So it's around that time anyway. So the late part of the Busby era, and went all the way through. If you look at hear players, what they said in the 90s, whenever they spoke about United, they spoke about it like it was a family, and they would always say, like Kath on reception, she was the first person people had mentioned. So they'd talk about the canteen staff and the people in the training ground and the people that did the pitch and all that kind of stuff, and the kit man and all those things, but the first person they mentioned outside of the coaching staff was Kath on reception. And you see the tributes, and you see that Rio was close to her, Patrice Evra was close to her, Beckham was close to her, and I'm sure there's many more. I mean, no pun intended by this whatsoever when I say this, because it would be very insensitive if it was a pun. She's a dying breed, because people make institutions, people make places like Manchester United, and it isn't just the team. And I think, without wanting to get too deep, in the society that we live in now, people are becoming a commodity that you almost don't need as much, and that personal touch, that reciprocal conversation you can have with somebody, that you can't replace that. And to be in that role for so long and be respected and loved by so many people, I think it's so nice that she was given that fitting send-off and fitting tribute today. And you know, the club at times have really lacked class over the last few years, but I thought that was class. And God bless her. Glazers out.